Alrighty. So, I believe we're starting off with Manuel Torres versus Claudio Puelles, correct?
Aside from the no, not man, it's Claudio Puelles versus Fares Ziam.
For Ferezian. I might have put in the wrong name. Yeah, there we go. Let's fix this.
Great. Now, there's a few prelim ones I want to talk about. Feel free to chime in on them or not.
Just a rather large
No,
card.
I'll let you go.
Cool.
Alright, so Puelles versus Ziam. Alright, I think we'll just call this the Jackson Cook sesh, where we just put up two pairs of fighters and Jackson absolutely just cooks them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We recording everything?
Yeah, we're recording. We are live. We are good to go.
Money. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this fight because I like the value on the side of Fares Ziam. He is $3.20. Claudio Puelles $3.60. So clearly value there if you are on the Ziam side of things. Ziam, I just like this fight stylistically for him. He is a long rangey striker, and that's what he loves to do. He likes to work in the clinch, use his leg kicks to manage the range. He's very technical too. Only really engages when he sees an opportunity. He doesn't take chances or chase knockouts or submissions, but he will always put himself in the best position to win. He's coming off a points victory over Jai Herbert. And I just think in this fight against a guy like Claudio, who is a great grappler and is dangerous everywhere, he is kind of he is dangerous everywhere on the ground. Like he's one dimensional. He can't really strike at all with Fares Ziam. And I don't think because Fares is so good at managing range, a guy like Claudio Puelles is going to be able to get him on the ground. Um, he has a negative striking differential as well. Definitely can't hang. And his last fight against Dan Hooker just wasn't a good showing at all. He was butt scooting all over the place, couldn't get close to Dan. I think Fares is equally as good at managing range as Dan Hooker is. So I think this should be a pretty easy win here for Ziam, and the value's all on his side.
Right on. All right. That's the first dish that you guys are getting served here. On to the next one. I'm not even going to try to pronounce these names. We're just going to let Jackson go on and keep on this cook sesh. On to the
Yeah, the next one
appetizer.
we're
Second
doing
appetizer.
is not the Lacerda fight. We don't have to talk about the
We don't have
Lacerda.
to talk about
We
Lacerda.
could nah Jesus Aguilar versus Mateus Mendonca, please.
All right. I got you. So we'll go to Mateus first here. Make sure I got the right one. There we go. Share this tab instead. Alright. Let you start getting into this one now, and I'll get them both brought up.
So basically, relative to their prices, this one's basically a pick 'em. Mendonca is here looking for his first UFC win. Jesus is coming off a really fast KO over Shannon Ross. Jesus, he's a really solid grappler, insanely good at finding guillotines. Like he looks for them offensively. He also has some good combos, pretty decent power. Mateus on the other side of things, great striking, good BJJ as well. But he is primarily a grappler. He can definitely strike too. He's coming off a finish loss to Nate Maness. Um, the betting odds have Mendonca as the favorite here. So I kind of like this no matter where you're getting it because you have him as basically, I think, equal to sportsbook odds here on Prediction Strike, like 50-50 pick 'em between Jesus and Mendonca. Um, but I think, maybe Mateus is the more dangerous guy. He is very hittable, though. It's going to be back and forth the whole time, and Jesus is super tough. He he is going to definitely be able to out grapple Mateus Mendonca, and I think that's his path to victory here. He does have some wild striking, and like I said, they could get caught in an exchange, a pretty rough one at that. So it's hard to say. Maybe there is someone gets a shot in somewhere, hits that button, but yeah, I think if we get out of round one, I don't think there's a way Aguilar loses this one. Mendonca struggles with his cardio. This is a tough location to struggle with cardio, very high elevation. Um, I have Jesus here pretty comfortably.
Alright, alright, alright. And the last one, I believe, is Christian here versus Barcelos.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then we'll give
So
me the
this
main.
is another one where you're getting value pretty much everywhere. Price wise, it's basically a pick 'em on prediction strike. Rione a little bit cheaper than Quinones here. Quinones, he is coming off a loss to Kyung Ho Kang. Rione is 1-4 in his last 5. So Rione is getting. I really like this guy as a fighter. He's really well rounded, or at least was when he was in his prime. Striking wise, he has great kicks, high volume. Wrestling wise, 5-time Brazilian national champion. He has great takedown defense too. Averages just about 2 takedowns a fight. He is just getting old. He's obviously slumping here. It's hard to pick him at 37. Like, obviously, his decline is pretty sharp here. He's 1-4 in his last 5. Christian is just a relentless guy, nonstop pressure. He always gets things into a grappling exchange. Like, we'll be able to bait round you into a brawl. Um, he is all gas, no brakes, though. So that's something to consider here. But I think that's probably going to work to his advantage ultimately against Rowney, who I just don't think will be able to handle the pressure.
Hell yeah. All right.
And some messages there.
On to the next one. Manuel Torres versus Chris
I
Duncan.
think we're into the main card now, right?
Yep,
Yes,
we're to
we
the
are.
main
Grant,
card.
take
So
this
Grant,
one.
you used to lead us off here.
What was Torres's price?
Torres is sitting at 378, and you got Duncan at 312.
Yeah, so not a significant difference here. I think I'll start off the card just by taking the native. I'm going to take Torres here. I mean, you can definitely get better value on prediction strike than you could elsewhere. Pretty similar prices, and the consensus seems to be with Torres as a decently significant favorite in this one. Yeah, I think the main card gets started off. I think we see a Mexican fighter win, and the crowd get into this one, and we start off the night.
Right on.
Yeah, this is honestly, I feel like going to be a really good fight. I will probably end up siding with you on the Manuel Torres side of things, but Duncan is a really durable guy here. And you still have to be careful with Torres, even though he has a ton of first-round finishes. Like, we haven't really seen him or the way he acts in the second or third rounds of fights, which, a guy like Chris Duncan could definitely take him into. But yeah, Duncan's riding a 4-fight win streak. Torres has 13 or 14 wins by stoppage. And he's probably the more well-rounded guy of the two. His striking is not super technical, but he has really good head and leg kicks. He is a super skinny, long guy, uses his length in his submissions and his clinch work, launches those long knees. And he's coming off his second KO win in the UFC, so a really interesting new prospect. And it kind of feels a little bit like the UFC is feeding him Chris Duncan. They definitely want to promote, the UFC to that Mexican audience. It's definitely a growing market there. So maybe a few of these fights we'll see as sort of feeders. But Duncan is tough as nails, super heavy-handed striker. I just think he could, end up having the durability to take it to where Manuel Torres hasn't really gone before, which could shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, I just think what he may lack in tank. I mean, we just don't know. Like, he could have the tank, he's just never gotten there. But what he might lack in tank, he might make up for in just being more accustomed to the elevation and things like that. It could kind of level the playing field in that sense.
Well, he actually isn't used to the elevation. He fights out of Mexico.
Torres isn't?
No, he fights out of Baja, California, I'm pretty sure.
Well,
ooh.
There you are.
But
still, I still think you're right.
Give it to the Scotsman, yeah. Give it to the Scotsman. He's got himself in better training conditions. He goes out and works out a gopher hole. He comes in, he takes your rifle, he goes and have himself a day, yeah. Alright. That's my only take for this card. I saw he has Scottish flag.
Love it.
Alright, we got Sam Hughes versus Yasmin, a name that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Jackson Grant, walk us through it. Let us know how this one goes on down.
Yasmin Yaregui. Yaregui versus Sam Hughes. Yasmin, the value is slightly on her side. I think this is a really good value play here. She's 4-1 in her last 5. She lost in her last one out, though. Hughes beat Jacqueline Amarim last time out. Yasmin puts together some really nice combos, is always looking for that finish, has some really nice kicks, good takedowns, and takedown D as well, gets a bunch of control time. Gomes did blast her in her last fight, but I definitely think she's still active, like still an interesting prospect, too young for that to really impact her too bad. Yeah, she didn't get hurt that bad. Hughes isn't really that dangerous at all either, but she does apply a lot of pressure. Her striking differential is negative, but in her last fight, she did have 7 takedowns with a ton of pressure. And she has some pretty good cardio too, some impressive takedown defense, especially what she showed in her last fight. But I think, honestly, here, this is another scenario where Yasmin is a really interesting new prospect, especially for Mexico. And the UFC is probably building her up as like the next Lupi Godinez type. I mean, it might be reaching. It's obviously a fist fight, but like I think Yasmin should still be the better striker. Definitely going to make Sam pay every time on her way in. So I think Yasmin's the pick here.
Right on. All right. Off the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely the best value play here too, especially for the age. We always talk about this, but there's a lot of ups and downs in the career that can happen. And I think she probably gets it done via a finish. I will say on the Torres point, he is from Chihuahua, Mexico, which
was that
does have
wrong?
an elevation of 5,200 feet.
Shit, I was wrong. Okay, dude, I was looking at all the gyms.
He might train in Baja, but he is used to it in the sense that he has grown up there. So to an extent, you could say he could be used to it, but
okay. Well,
Yasmin does not have that advantage. She's from Tijuana, which is like 50 feet elevation. So
yeah.
Interesting.
Cool. Well, I guess that point on Torres is moot. Either way, we're both still Team Torres.
yeah.
All right. Moving on over to Raul Rosas Jr. versus Ricky Torres. Walk us through this one. I feel like this has got a lot of underlying hype behind it.
So we got Tercios at 242, right?
Yeah, 245 here, and then Rosas at 352.
Yeah, Tercios is coming back after a year away, and this is going to be a pretty good test for Raul Rosas Jr., the 19-year-old. He is a little bit reckless in his striking, but is super athletic and fast, as we know. Just knocked out Terrence Mitchell in under a minute. And Tercios, on the other side of things, is a good striker, really light on his feet. He is very high volume, super pacey, doesn't have much to offer outside of that because he has pretty low takedown defense and offense. And Raul does want to wrestle and grapple with Tercios in this fight. But Tercios, while he doesn't go for takedowns, he does do well in scrambles. He loves the chaos on the ground. Raul against Rodriguez ended up, like in that fight, he ended up in some pretty bad positions on the ground. And Rosas did just win a fight, but we don't know if his cardio has improved or anything because it was a 1-round fight. And he had struggled with the cardio in the past, and he is young, so he makes young mistakes. Tercios has 2 fights where he was taken down 6 or more times. He won both of those, though. So, like, he can obviously hang on the ground. His get-up game is insane. So if Raul wants to take this to the ground, like, even if he gets there where he doesn't have the skill gap against Ricky, like, it's still going to be tough for him. I think the year away could probably be a problem for Tercios. It always could be for any fighter. And Raul is always improving, obviously. So
did he spend that year training something new or just exploring other areas of life?
He
like,
was fighting?
Huh?
He just wasn't fighting
at all.
Yeah,
like even training.
Slacker.
I'm sure he was training some, but
yeah.
he like announced a year away from the UFC.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard for me. I think I'm going to trust the process with Raul here, but I do think it could get tricky for him potentially.
Yeah, I have Raul. I mean, I think at the price, it's just a good investment in general. I mean, 19, easily the youngest guy you'll see this high up a card in the entire company. So, plenty of room. I think if you see this as a long-term investment, I do think he gets it done in this fight though as well. Since that Rodriguez fight, I saw an interview he's talking about a lot about linking up with an old wrestling coach in Kyrgyzstan, and then just focusing a lot of his training on that. And he seemed, I mean, it was hard to tell how comfortable he was with wrestling in his last fight just because it didn't last long. But it does seem like after that fight, I'm sure that was a bit of a wake-up call, and that's probably the area he's focused on improving the most because his striking and mobility and everything else and ability to maneuver the ring and everything has always been good. So I would assume that's probably been the focal point of his training, and I would hope it's probably improved at least a decent amount since then. So I will take Rosas on this one.
Let's go.
All right. To the next bout, we have Zellhuber versus Prado. Walk me down
We're
the
looking
lane.
good here, Grant. We're matched up on all the picks. I'm kind of concerned that we're picking all of like
The same
the
things.
Mexican fighters. I feel like we're gonna get blindsided somewhere. But yeah, so
Is it here?
Yeah, it could be here. I mean, like this presents probably the best value on prediction strike, Prado versus Zellhuber. If you're on the Prado side of things, Zellhuber coming off back-to-back wins. His Prado is coming off his first UFC win and is 4-1 in his last 5. Daniel is a really rangy striker. He's a long guy, super dynamic, and has good takedown defense, does a good job of getting up, striking his way out of dangerous situations on the ground. He can also look for the submission on the ground, uses that length to wrap you up. Prado, super powerful striker, is definitely going to come in hot in the first round. He has some solid head kicks, can work well in the clinch. He can grapple as well. Definitely not his key to victory, or his path to victory, I should say. And I think this is one of those fighters too, where he does slow down a bit into the fight. Elevation won't help him here. Cardio is a problem with Prado sometimes. So like always something to consider. It's hard to say how much that factors into any given fight or like how prepared a guy is for that based on his camp, but we'll see. Like he is definitely one of the guys that's more susceptible to cardio problems here. And he's definitely the more powerful guy, more dangerous guy. But I do think Zellhuber is the more well-rounded guy who has more ways to win here. So I'm going to go with Daniel and probably cite Prado's cardio issues.
Right on.
Yeah, I mean, on PS, I think Prado is almost a must, just based on the odds elsewhere. I mean, Daniel is definitely a favorite, but I think it's a lot closer in reality than it is on PS with almost a 4x difference. So in that sense, I think I will be investing in Prado. In terms of who's going to win the fight, I mean, I think Prado does have a chance, but if he has that chance, it's going to have to come early, like you said. And I think with the value there, you're going to have to just trust Prado's ability to kind of get after him and push the pace and see if he can make something happen early. It also is like a total hometown situation for Zellhuber. Obviously, definitely used to the elevation and things like that. So a lot of things probably not going Prado's way, which is interesting considering he's 21 and I mean, both these guys I would say are probably pretty prime prospects in the future, but it seems like a weird one. Usually you would give both of these guys an older fighter to kind of get them used to the fight level in the UFC, but they're kind of throwing them at each other, which could be a good way to kind of determine which one of these guys is really built for it. So we'll see what happens.
Should be a fun fight for sure. And I do think it's definitely worth taking that Prado investment on prediction strike. Getting great odds there.
Right
Plus
on.
EV, as they would say.
2BH is in chat and saying, Prado is at no slump. This fight worries me. And then when Grant started speaking, said, yeah, yep, and gave you a thumbs up. So, moving on to the next bout here, we got Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega. Let me know what you guys think about this fight.
Grant, what do you think about this one?
So obviously they have fought each other. There was a shoulder injury, something like that. Yeah. But I think that Yair was clearly pushing the pace so far in that first round, but we didn't get to see much of it. Obviously, it was late in the first, I think, right?
Yeah. I would probably contest that Yair was pushing most of the pace, but
really, okay.
Well, I mean, it's like I would say Ortega got some shots in. I don't really know.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. But since then, Ortega has not fought. It's been like a year and a half-ish. And then Yair has obviously fought a few people. He's fought Josh Emmett. He fought Volk for the title earlier on, or mid-2023-ish. So he's definitely been more active, but it depends on how you want to look at that situation. It could go either way, with Yair having a pretty tough loss to Volk by way of TKO. It might have been better to just been resting during that time. I would say, Ortega at least lasted 5 rounds with Volk, if you want to use that as any sort of way to gauge this fight. I do like Ortega in this fight. I'm sure Jackson will have some info that will probably push me to a different side. I know that Yair is from that same city of Chihuahua, which has 5,000 elevation and could be used to it. And obviously it's a hometown advantage. I think the Mexican fans love Yair Rodriguez. So I could see this one going either way, but I do like Brian Ortega to win this return to the ring.
Yeah, I've been back and forth on this one for sure. I mean, I feel like if Yair is to win, he's definitely, I think it's probably going to happen by KO. It's just hard to say if he's going to be able to get that against Brian Ortega, who is tough. I mean, he got injured, but Korean Zombie wasn't able to KO Ortega. Yair doesn't have the same power as him, arguably. Will he be able to get it done? But this is a rematch. Ortega, I think, did actually look decent in my eyes in that fight. He got a few shots in, got a takedown before his shoulder blew out. Yair is insanely dangerous, though. Insanely fun striker. Can also make things happen on the ground, but he did also just get completely ragdolled by Volk. So that's something to look at. The same way that the Ortega injury from the past is something to look at. Ortega's nasty BJJ. Good striker, not the best takedown accuracy, pretty all right takedown defense. He gets hit a ton, which isn't good. He's coming off that TKO loss where he hurt his shoulder. And I think Ortega, he got it to the ground in their last fight. He landed some strikes. Maybe that was because, he couldn't hang with Yair, so he was already going for takedowns super early in the fight. I think this is going to be a super good fight. I'm not too confident. It might have sounded like I was going with Brian. I'm going with Yair, but because I think he'll probably end up KOing Ortega, but I do think there's a lot of ways for Ortega to win this one.
Yeah, I think this is definitely, what I would assume will be the best fight of the card. Definitely the one I'm most excited for. Both these guys are dogs. Yeah. We've seen both guys get super bloodied and beaten up by Holloway and just stay in there and take punches, and I don't know, it should be a good one.
My only question is, really doesn't Ortega have something going on outside of the ring?
What do you mean?
I thought he had something going on. I'm not entirely sure. I want to say there was I don't know.
Like a scandal?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought I saw something about something going on with him. So I was curious if there was any external motivation there.
I don't know anything going on with him. What's up? What's up with Brian?
I don't know. I just remember seeing his name when I was thumbing through the Twitters.
I think that shoulder injury was a lot worse than it probably initially seemed, because it has been a long time since he's fought. I'm sure there were probably a variety of different surgeries and things that went into him being ready to fight again, but I haven't heard anything off the outside of the ring stuff.
But for now, we'll move on to the next fight of Brandon Moreno versus Brandon Royval. So the battle of the Brandons. Let me know which Brandon you think is best.
Which Brandon do we
I
think?
mean, I think on PS you kind of have to lean Moreno just because the prices are
Yeah.
so similar, and I mean he is a big favorite in this one, but just as a guy, I mean Brandon Moreno is nauseating. I I've seen so many title fights with this dude, and I mean I guess the division more so just needs some new blood to come in because we've seen Moreno Figueiredo and then Moreno Royval, and I mean Moreno's gotten every shot, and so there's just needs to be someone new, I think, to kind of come in and switch up things in this division. But I do think he probably wins this fight. Unfortunately, I would love for Royval to win, but I don't see that happening here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he's the more technical guy. He's ultimately the guy who's probably going to end up winning this fight. But I do think it is going to be interesting. I like the key to victory here for Moreno is getting to the back of Royval. And if he doesn't, it's going to be trouble for him. Ultimately, cardio won't be a problem for either of them here, really. Yeah, it's a tough one. Royval is stepping up on kind of shortest notice, but honestly, there's been like plenty of time to set up a full camp. They're both coming off losses to Pantoja, so it's kind of hard to compare them there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said,
he did beat him. Moreno beat Royval, albeit a while ago, but I mean that's definitely a data point worth.
Yeah, this is like the third rematch of this card,
Yeah.
right? Damn. Moreno, yeah, he's a dog. Nonstop pace, a little over 2 takedowns a fight. Also good at mixing it up with his striking, and he just stays busy. Royval also super exciting, always looking for that finish. Diverse striking, super fast, super powerful, and he has sneaky submissions too. I'm going to go Moreno here. He's just so accomplished, and he stayed so durable while doing it, former world champion. And I don't think Royval will be able to survive late here against Moreno in a five round fight. Like, it's not a cardio thing. It's just I think it's a focus thing. I think it's a being here before thing. It like Moreno hasn't lost any of that durability from championship days, so I'm going him.
I mean, I think Moreno wins this and then probably loses to Pantoja for the third time.
Yeah.
And then it just repeats the cycle. I think this division desperately needs like Kai Car France or like Manel Kopp to kind of surge up the rankings and potentially take the belt, just because it feels like this crop of 4 dudes fighting each other over and over again just isn't the most marketable thing. But
you sure you don't want?
We will be there.
You don't want to see it all over again? All right. Well, I think that's
neither is what's going on in several divisions, but
that's fair.
Road to the belt is a tricky one.
Yeah.
Let's see here. It was apparently something about like Brian Ortega and Tracy Cortez, but I think that's gone. Oh well, boring.
What?
That's the UFC card we have for you all. Thank you for stopping in, and we'll see. Well, Jackson and Grant will see you tomorrow for NBA. I will be here on Friday to help you guys out then. Well, until then, peace, y'all.